Hey guys, before we actually begin today's episode with the one and only Ben Greenfield, I just want to make sure if you had the opportunity to join the Optimal Tribe. As a member of the Optimal Tribe, you'll receive my weekly interviews with the world top experts, my weekly educational videos, and amazing content all delivered into your inbox. All you got to do is head over to amirrosic.com and enter your name and email address, and you'll be seeing me every single week. Now on with the show. Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Optimal Health Show. We have a fantastic show for you today. We have the one, the only, Ben Greenfield. How are you doing, brother?
What's up, Amir? I'm doing good. I'm doing well. It's good to see you.
Fantastic, fantastic. I know you're busy. You just had your crazy conference, a week ago or so. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that conference? What just passed by?
It was like TED Talks for fitness nerds. It was just a bunch of folks learning about everything from fighting brain inflammation to cold thermogenesis to the best workouts for getting lean fast to just basically, everything that you'd want if you wanted to kind of optimize your body and your mind performance as fast as possible. So just brought in a bunch of people, some of the big hitters or whatever in the whole, fitness space, like, Norgid Gaudas and Dave Asprey and Ray Cronice and Phil Maffetone and just a lot of people who taught folks about health. And it was really fun, and it was a lot of work to put on a live event. So I definitely spent a lot of time the past 3 months kind of putting it all together, but it was fun.
Fantastic, I bet. But like, people are probably asking themselves, like, how did you get to this journey of yours, like optimizing your health? Like, you and I, we're in a very like secluded figure of society. We want to become the best possible version of ourselves. But what started your journey in optimizing you?
Well, I guess if we were gonna like rewind pretty far back, just wanting to get better at tennis because I was a tennis player, and I kind of took my love of tennis and married it to studying kinesiology and biomechanics and physiology while I was going through college, and from there I branched out. I've got like this whole ADD kind of thing, even though I haven't been diagnosed with that per se, because I don't really go to the doctor. Yeah. But basically, I'm always dabbling in new activities and new sports. It's kind of weird that I've been a triathlete for 10 years because, I'm really up until that point, I was doing tennis, bodybuilding, water polo, teaching spin classes. I played soccer and basketball and baseball and every sport under the sun, during my junior high and some of my high school years. And, just like, for me, it was all about just wanting to get better at sports, purely selfish reasons. I just wanted to kind of, be the sports superhero and be able to do what I was doing as well as possible.
Well, through your journeys though, like, how did you stumble across some of the information? I know that, you practice certain cyclic low carbing cycling. You do really like unorthodox stuff compared to like the so-called norm. Like, how did you come about this information? What drawn you to this information?
Well, the problem is that when you're looking at all of this performance information, whether it's in like whatever a bodybuilding magazine or a triathlon or a tennis magazine or something like that, or a website or podcast or video, it's all about performance. How do I get faster, stronger, better, leaner, etc. And nobody's talking too much about what happens to your body when all of this catches up with you later on in life. It's like you brought up the low carb thing, and sure, I could eat sugar and carbohydrates, and that's a perfect drug for fueling, for example, my sport of triathlon. It helps me to go really fast. But at the same time, that's a lot of blood sugar fluctuations. It's a lot of work being done by my pancreas. It's a lot of potential inflammation in my blood vessels. It's a lot of potential cross-linking of those carbohydrates to proteins and formation of these advanced glycation end products. And there are a lot of things that occur when you're just focusing on the performance aspect and not on the health. So, a case in point like that, I decided, okay, well, I do really want to focus on the health component. It is important. It is a good idea to take care of your body at the same time that you're pursuing wanting to kind of squeeze every last drop of performance out of it. And so, maybe I'll figure out a way to fuel my body without using so many carbohydrates or using longer chain carbs or more fats or something like that. And then once you start to go down that rabbit hole, there's just like all sorts of stuff from like, what kind of shampoo do I use to wash the chlorine out of my hair after I swim? Am I going to go buy it from Walgreens with the 18 different labels, or am I going to use basically what I use now, which is vitamin C spray? Another example is, am I going to go out and do a 2 or 3 hour or even 4 hour, indoor ride on my indoor bike trainer all winter, like most of my peers training for Ironman are doing, exposed to electromagnetic frequencies all day long inside the office, overtraining, leaching minerals? Or am I going to go out for a quick high intensity interval mountain bike ride in the snow? Just like you start to add up little things like that. And yeah, it does end up, once you put it all together, looking kind of geeky. But at the same time, and I totally don't want to sound like arrogant or full of myself, but I get lots of compliments about my skin and my hair and my nails, and kind of like the little things that are sure just surface stuff, but they are evidence, little pieces of evidence that my connective tissue integrity is doing okay, that I'm not creating a lot of free radicals in my body, that I'm probably not stripping that many years off my life training for Ironman. Yeah. And so, that kind of is a long answer to your question. And the short answer is health versus performance.
Yeah, obviously, and there has to be a mixture of both. And as both you and I are professional athletes, there has to be a fine line that we both realize that what we're putting ourselves through may not be the healthiest thing at the time being. It's unnatural to train X amount of hours per day for something, right? So we have to counterbalance, is what you're mentioning. Do I need to train in a bike that has EMF, through all winter? No, or I can go outside, have some fresh air, and be on a real bike, right? But through your journey, and obviously finding out the nutrition is a pivotal role in how you perform, was there any like certain books or influential people in your past that made you really question the foods that you put in your body can affect your performance?
Yeah, there were a lot of people. I read a lot. I'm a total bookworm. I always have been. The library's 2 blocks from my house, and until I got my Kindle, I was there all the time. Now they miss me because I'm not in there quite as much. Like my MO is, whenever I find something I want to read on Amazon, I send a sample to my Kindle, and if it doesn't completely suck, I buy it and I read it. And I'm just always reading or always listening to podcasts or following people's blogs. So yes, there are certainly some people that have formed a lot of my ideas about health versus performance. People who are leaders in the whole ancestral and primal health movement, specifically people like Mark Sisson, like who are some of the other favorite people that I follow. Paul Jaminet, Nora Gedgaudas, Art Devaney. There's so many people now in that space who are, a lot of them and myself and us are kind of like recycling information now. Those are some of the people. I also, try and keep my ear to the ground of research quite a bit in terms of, I read all the Stone Hearth newsletters. I subscribe to those health, nutrition, fitness newsletters because they're good little journals, good little digests of what's going on. Honestly, like on my Twitter, on the Ben Greenfield Twitter thing, like people, now that they know I like to geek out on this stuff, I get half of like my book ideas and everything from just my Twitter feed, because people will alert me to an article or something like that, and I'll go read it. Like this morning, I was reading a fantastic article about endurance training and thyroid, and whether or not there really is evidence that shows that downregulates your thyroid, or whether that's just a myth. And a lot of times it's just being out there in the community and seeing what other people are saying, and then delving into the research of the books that they're talking about. But but yeah, I mean, I would like to say that there's some kind of a system, but really for me, it's like I hear about something and I go research it and draw what I can from it.
Yeah, I totally agree. You mentioning previous person, the Art Devani, he's one of the people I like to listen and talk to, and you know he's living proof of what he talks about himself,
Yeah,
right? You know
yeah,
he's on a different
yeah,
league all on its own, but yeah.
yeah. He's a total badass. I would love to look like that when I'm
Oh yeah,
70.
he's a rock star,
However
man.
it is. Yeah.
That's right. But I find it hard that it's not the fact that the information is hard to get. Like it's pretty overwhelming actually. You have information, God, man, so much information on the internet. What I find is hard is that some people refuse to believe the information, or they find it hard to implement. Now, did you have any problems like that? Well, okay, so if you read this literature, this research, you PubMed stuff, you've listened to Mark Sisson, you followed Art Devani, but when it came time to apply it, did you have any like constraints or resistance to apply the information?
Yes, there are some things that you got to get past. For example, you have to have confidence in yourself because people will make fun of you if they see me wearing whatever blue light blocking glasses while I'm doing an interview, or if they for example see that I've got a structured water filter in my house, or they hear about that, or they hear I wear like a Schumann resonance frequency bracelet, and you can certainly get made fun of for a lot of this stuff, and I'll certainly be the first to admit that some of it is a little geeky. But self-confidence is really important when you're getting into kind of going after the whole live as healthy as possible route, just because it is stuff that's not socially acceptable. It's socially acceptable to go to the grocery store and buy your healthy bag of trail mix, which is in fact vegetable oils and rancid seeds and nuts and sugar, preservatives, and a bunch of food that has had its biophotonic energy sucked out of it. But you throw around a word like biophotonic energy at a party, and people start to kind of shy away from
Well,
it.
actually,
So,
can you please explain to our audience what in the God's name is biophotonic energy?
biophotons are basically the energetic compounds that you're going to find in food that has been exposed to good amounts of sunlight, well mineralized soil, and basically had lots of exposure to natural earth. And the fresher food is, the more biophotons it's going to have in it, the more of that vibratory energy your body is actually able to absorb and assimilate. And the marriage between like quantum physics and food is like in its super infancy right now.
Oh yeah.
But the idea is that the way that a food has been treated, because it is a living organism, and what it's been exposed to really does affect the amount of energy that you can derive from it. And kind of, I know this is total segue to your question, but when you're talking about something like that, yes, self-confidence is one really important thing. Another thing is simply mental and nervous system strength. So I track my nervous system strength using morning heart rate variability measurements. And I do things like take a cold shower every day, icy cold shower, usually twice a day, to make sure that my nervous system is really strong.
Yeah.
And I use, tips and tricks that I've talked about on my website before to kind of get myself to go into the pain cave when I'm working out, because it is harder to do things like intervals versus I like to say that most triathletes, for example, are lazy, which shocks a lot of people. But it's true. It is easy to go out and run at a slow snail's pace on like this death march for 2 hours versus to go out to, the hill behind my house and sprint up it 10 times, until I'm blue in the face and be done in 20 minutes. It's like that latter scenario is very hard to overcome. So yeah, self-confidence, taking care of your nervous system, being willing to go to the pain cave, some of those type of things are certainly things you gotta be able to do when you're going after this health versus performance type of trade-off.
So when you first started implementing the nutrition and you started, say, tweaking or biohacking your nutrition, was there a phase that you thought that this is all bullshit, or was it like pretty quick that you've seen results happen within your performance?
I mean, nutrition is a total evolution. It's not a switch, and I say that, but what I should say is that for me, it was an evolution because I started off just basically eating fast food every day and gradually finding out more and more things and kind of making that transition from first cutting out lots of processed and preservative laden food to then beginning to cut back on carbohydrates a little bit to then beginning to worry about whether or not my food was organic or not to then beginning to worry about the way that the animals were treated from the meat that I was eating. And, you go down this route and, a few years later you look back and you're like, wow, I actually, I kind of look like a nutrition Nazi now, but in fact, I feel, freaking fantastic. And so for me, it was an evolution. I mean, what I would hope is that for people who are discovering this video or who, read some of my books or look at my superhuman food pyramid or something like that, that they would be able to make that transition much, much more quickly than I made literally over the course of almost a decade, myself and my wife. And a big part of this too is my wife. Mm-hmm. She and I run the Inner Circle together where she does healthy cooking videos and recipes for folks and stuff. But she comes from a ranching background where she's used to food prep. She's used to gardening. She's used to the idea of food being way above and beyond just buying it from the grocery store. And so she was a big help as I went through this stuff because, I'm the guy who learns that most people are deficient in vitamin K2. It's a fantastic blood and bone building vitamin. And one of the best sources of it is natto, a fermented soybean that's been exposed to a certain bacteria that allows it to ferment in the right way. Well, I'm the knowledge guy, and I tell people that, and I write that, and then she's the person that goes out to the Asian food store, buys the natto, and ferments it in our fridge. So it's like we kind of tag team a little bit in that. She helps out quite a bit, teaching me a lot of the prep stuff that I am too busy to do because I got my face stuffed in a book or I'm podcasting or something.
It seems like to be a very good marriage.
So yeah. So it works out kind of well. She teaches me a lot of the practical stuff, and so that's another really important thing is to have a supportive family environment if you aren't a family for doing this kind of stuff.
I think you hit a key note right there, and most people past the age of 30, I'm assuming, are married. Majority of the population here, and I find it hard that, say, a husband or a wife wants to go on a journey to optimize their health. Maybe they want to clean up their nutrition just a little bit, or maybe they want to optimize their sleeping patterns a little bit. I don't think so. It can't just work with that one individual. As a married couple, both parties have to agree, like the yin and the yang, and they have to work together, right? And so what's your experience on this? Like, starting with your wife, say you said a decade ago, like, I'm assuming there was like ups and downs and roller coaster rides along the way.
Yeah, it's so hard. Like, I have some clients who I work with who do not have supportive spouses, and it is so hard for them to be able to even do something like, if I encourage them to not eat, beef that's been grain fed, for example, it is just like a foreign concept for their spouse to go to Walmart and buy the grass-fed beef that's right there beside the farm-fed beef, because the grass-fed beef is whatever, $1 or $2 more expensive. Yeah. And that sounds like a little thing, but stuff really starts to add up. As that person's body starts to accumulate with omega-6 fatty acids and hormones and antibiotics, and then they come to me complaining about joint pain after their workout, and I say to them, well, you're eating meat 4 times a week, and is it dumping inflammation into your body, or is it actually giving you all these omega-3 fatty acids and anti-inflammatory compounds? And they're like, well, I eat what my wife got or what my husband got, and and it's one of those deals where it's so much easier when the person's spouse is on board, and it's like, well, yeah, we got what was right there on the food list that you gave to us, easy peasy. But yeah, I mean, it really is tough. And for my wife and I, it is kind of like I explained. It's one of those things where my wife doesn't do a lot of the reading. She doesn't do a lot of the research. But she'll listen to something that I'm saying. She doesn't listen to my podcast as much as it's just like a conversation that we'll have at whatever at night while we're going to sleep. I'm like, hey, Jessa, I talked to this guy on my podcast today, and we discussed alkalinic diets for migraines. And this was like a couple of years ago, we had this discussion, and I'm like, you should try some of these green smoothies and some of these alkalinic foods, and experiment with some of this stuff. And so, then she from there goes and finds a bunch of green smoothie recipes and learns how to implement an alkalinic diet and how to pee on the acid alkaline urine strips and all this stuff. And then and that all of a sudden becomes part of our life. A new recipe added to our repertoire, the green smoothie in the morning. And so, that's kind of how it works. Is we just bounce stuff off each other and help each other out. But yeah, I mean, it's been an evolution from the early days when we were first married, to, where we just would make stir fry at night, and that was the healthiest meal of the week. So, yeah.
Now through your journeys though with your wife and your family, was there any like tips or tricks they can share with our audience to maybe alleviate anyone having problems right now? Because I know it's hard, and it always helps to hear someone else's advice who's been there, who's done that.
Yeah. I think that one really important thing is to not necessarily try to do everything at once. And I think that's one important thing, is that you take things in small chunks. Yeah. The idea of going and throwing everything out in your cupboard, in your pantry, in your refrigerator, that works for some people, but I think that others just need to do something simple, like replace regular milk with like organic milk, or replace regular eggs with some pasture raised eggs, or buy some organic vegetables, or maybe start to rinse your non-organic vegetables in a mix of vinegar and water rather than just water. Yeah. Little things like that. And then the other really important thing is to understand that people who are eating healthy and who are doing things, like myself and my wife are doing, we're not necessarily all that complex. We eat a lot of the same things week after week after week. I have almost the same thing for breakfast every single morning, or one of three things. I either do like kind of a green smoothie / sludge. I like a kind of a protein parfait with some coconut milk and protein powder, or I do some high fat coffee where I blend up coffee with some butter and stuff like that.
Bulletproof coffee.
Yeah, the bulletproof coffee. Yeah. Exactly. And I have the same thing for lunch. I always have a salad with some avocados and olives, and sometimes some fish or some sardines or something like that on it. And then dinner, usually we've got about 5 to 10 different recipes that we vary through. And snacks for me are always the same almost every single day. I have, like some coconut flakes or some little dark chocolate chips, in some protein powder and some coconut milk. And that's, pre-workout. And it's like, you could literally like write down my diet easily on one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. But people, I think, take things to way too high a level of complexity and get these big diet books that have all these recipes all over the place. And it's just like, it's too much. So yeah, keep things simple. Don't try and change everything all at once. And then I would say the other thing is understand that this kind of stuff is part of human nature. I do have some really busy clients who have told me, I'm not going to cook. I'm not going to do food prep. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. And I think they're missing out on a very enjoyable part of life. Our senses, our touch, our smell, our taste. You experience a lot of that when you're preparing food and when you're cooking. And even if you think you're too busy to prepare food, I would encourage you to take some time. Even if it's just, for me, I do dinner 1 or 2 times a week. And I usually bring my kids into the process, so I'm spending time with them, and I'm able to experiment with some different herbs and spices, and it just kind of keeps you grounded versus always kind of outsourcing food prep and having your spouse do it, or buying the healthy foods at the grocery store or whatever. So I think that learning some of this hands-on stuff, even for people who are way into time management and time hacking and lifestyle hacking and stuff like that, it's really important to do some of the cooking yourself too.
I think the knowledge too, because I'm seeing, for my generation and each generation after me, the actual skills and education, the fine art of culinary is disappearing. When I hear people that they don't go shopping, they don't even know how to cook. Hell, people don't even know what slow cookers are. They don't even know what type of tools and materials they need for cooking. That's kind of scary for me when I hear that. Really frightening, because that's the basics of survival. is
Yeah.
learning to prepare and cook your food. God forbid something happens that you don't have access to Walmart, you don't have access to anything. You have to at least learn the basics how to cook. So I think you hit a key point here, that basic information, or enjoying time with your family, learning how to cook, having fun, smelling the food, touching the food, experiencing the food is an epic portion of becoming an optimal version of yourself.
Yeah, and I think that there are a lot of really busy people out there who, and I don't want to get too morbid here, but they're going to be on their deathbeds in, whatever, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, wishing they'd experienced a little bit more of life and vitality. And I think that that's a really, really important part of this, is getting your hands dirty is a big component of that. And you don't want to end life having lived your entire life basically exercising really hard and working really hard and not experiencing arts, culture, cooking, stuff like that. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, it hits the same note where I think Mark Sisson talks about the art of play, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So playing, we've lost the play, and it's frustrating, it's tough because it's hard today. Like, people are worried about paying the mortgage on their house, paying off the car, paying their children's university education, tuition, and basically we're working just to stay alive and almost to die at the same time. We don't have any luxury or freedom. Honestly, I find it really difficult even for some of my clients to just suggest, man, just go out there and walk for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Get some fresh air in your nose, experience some sunshine, get some vitamin D. But that's even difficult, 15 minutes of walking outside. And if that's difficult, I don't know. I don't see what's happening for the future of the human race right now, because I think we're going way too fast. We're way too convenient addicted right now, that we need to stop all this fast pace stuff that we're doing and get back to the basics.
Yeah, and two things I would have to say on that. Two kind of resources I would give the audience. One is there's this really good series of audio downloads called the Philosopher's Notes that can give you a really good perspective on life. I think it's at entheos.com, I think is the website.
We'll
ENTHEOS. Yeah. Philosopher's Notes are really good. I listen to those a lot, and they're just basically like cliff notes on audio of a lot of the really good philosophies out there on life and living and enjoying life. And then the other thing that's really important in terms of perspective is to understand the constraints that you may be placing on yourself that are stressing yourself out. So, for example, it's my kid's birthday today. They're actually in the other room,
awesome,
playing with some toys right now. Yeah. And on my schedule this morning, I was supposed to write a kind of like this sales letter for this manual that I've created on fat loss, and I was also supposed to spend 30 minutes working on my book. And so that's a total of about an hour and a half I was supposed to spend this morning that I had on my schedule. And I woke up this morning and, I could hear my kids stirring in their bedroom. And I looked at my little scheduler that said, okay, Ben, do this and do this. And those are my constraints. And for me, it's very mentally hard to step out of something that I have written for myself. That's the power of the written word. But I simply selected that stuff and erased it off of the day. Boom, it's gone. And you need to understand that even though sometimes scheduling and all these rigorous tasks that we hold ourselves to are important for productivity, sometimes when it comes to your health, to your enjoyment of life, which directly affects your fitness and your performance and everything too, sometimes you just have to realize that these are constraints that we make for ourselves. Me telling myself that I'm going to work 30 minutes on a book this morning is a constraint that I place on myself. And a lot of times we have more freedom than we think when it comes to being able to either, do what I did and get a chance to play with my boys in the morning, or, taking your example, go outside for a walk in the sun. I mean, you step back and look at whether or not the constraints that you have in your life are constraints that you've placed on yourself that are kind of silly or unnecessary, or whether they really are constraints, like you're going to get fired if you step outside to go for a 30-minute walk. I mean, you gotta choose wisely, but yeah. Right.
Now, if you have to give one optimal health tip, and it sounds like you already given it, but and you had no other choice but this one tip, what would be your number one tip for everybody out there? Listen, if you're going to do this one thing, at least do that to optimize the quality of your life.
Have a morning routine. I have not skipped my morning routine in almost 3.5 years, and it kind of evolved and changed as I go. But you have to have a ritual every single morning, and I do not know of a single successful, rich, healthy, well-performing person on the face of the planet who I've spoken to, any mentors, anybody who does not have a morning ritual. My morning ritual is for 5 minutes in the morning before I get out of bed. I do some deep breathing exercises and I take my heart rate variability using just this special little device on my phone. I get up out of bed. While I have coffee going, I take an ice cold shower for about 5 minutes. I get out, I pour myself a cup of coffee, I sip my coffee while I read a little bit, and then I stretch for about 15 minutes. And my stretching is a series of yoga and deep breathing and stuff like that. And then I move on. Then I can check email or work on a book or whatever. But I don't skip my morning even when I'm traveling and stuff. I always do some semblance of that morning ritual. So that's my top tip for people, is have a morning ritual.
Now, that's a fantastic tip. I highly agree with that. Well, Ben, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been fantastic. I hope everyone enjoys this information. It's wonderful information. Where can the audience catch you? Where can they get in contact with you?
BenGreenfieldFitness.com is my website, and I love to help people out. So if you go over there, leave a comment on a post I've written, or call into the podcast and ask a question. And it's my goal in life and my calling in life is to help people enhance their performance and enhance their health and maximize their potential in those respects. So I'm happy to help. And yeah, it's BenGreenfieldFitness.com.
Fantastic. You heard it, folks. Go check out Ben. He kicks ass. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's episode with Ben Greenfield. That was absolutely an amazing show. This episode was brought to you by my absolutely free 7-week sleep solution course valued at $97. All you got to do is head over to helpmesleepsolution.com and enter your name and email address to receive your free 7-week sleep solution course. Catch you next week.